What is going on, everyone, and welcome back. I'm happy to report that I am officially a member of Team Girl Dad. It's been awesome. Baby girl was born Saturday morning, 2:27 in the morning, and yeah, it's been incredible. She's the cutest thing that I've ever seen. Having kids is so much fun, and now my older one has a little sibling and also has an older step sibling. So a lot of fun going on in my world. I'm hoping to bring some of that baby swag into the picks this week. We're here to talk about the RBC Canadian Open. Should be a fun event. So it is the week before the majors, so we do have a kind of weak field. But we've seen the Canadian Opens have some great finishes over the last few years. We've also seen some great golf courses, and this one should be another one. It's TPC Toronto. We have the North Course. It's a par 70, very long, nearly 7,400 yards, but it is a little bit unique in its layout because the fairways are pretty wide, the greens are pretty big. Typically, when we see a par 70 on the PGA Tour, it's a shorter course that has narrow fairways, small greens. But that's not the case this week. We haven't seen an event here on the PGA Tour, but the PGA Tour Americas did play an event here last year, and the winning score was -5. Obviously, the field here is going to be much better than that field, but it kind of gives us an idea. Maybe the winning score is going to be between 10 and 15 under par. The rough's going to be extremely thick. It's 3.75 inches. So to put that into context, last week's Memorial, which was almost unplayable rough, was 4 inches. So very long rough. And yeah, it should be a really good test of golf. I think targeting golfers who are very solid total drivers, good iron players, and guys that are just very good tee to green makes a lot of sense. Typically, the tougher the course, the more demanding it is tee to green, and the harder it is to gain strokes just purely on the greens. Typically, the easier the course, turns into a putting contest. So I'm willing to target the good ball strikers over the good putters this week in particular. Now, let's quickly talk about the model for the week. So I have 9% weighted off the tee. You can bump this down if you don't think it's a driver heavy course, but again, these holes are very long, and I do think with the wider fairways, I do think we're going to see a lot more drivers than we typically do for a par 70 course. I have 3% total driving, 12% to stroke gain approach, 6% to stroke gain around the green, 8% to putting. If you want to bump this down, I don't hate it. Bent and Poa are the mix of grasses here on the greens. 3% to birdie or better, 3% to bogey avoidance. And again, there's not a strong course fit this week because we don't really know how the course is going to play. I'm kind of just making assumptions here on how the course is going to play. If you think it's going to be different and a complete birdie fest, then feel free to change the weights in the model. That is the whole purpose of the model. You can download it, you can customize it, and you can use the ratings that you come up with in Lineup HQ to build your lineups. So if you are a premium RG member, I highly recommend doing that each and every week. So now let's take a look at course history. This is not from this course. This is the first time we've seen the course on the PGA Tour. This is event history from the RBC Canadian Open. So I have it weighted at 0%. I included it here just in case you think if someone's played well in Canada, maybe it translates. I'm not sure. So if you want to bump this number up, you certainly can. I'm putting it at 0%. Now, the miscellaneous metrics for the week, stroke gain on long par 70s. Golfers that play the best on these types of courses, Rory McIlroy, Wyndham Clark, Bobby Mack, Toasty, and Sam Burns, guys that play the best in weak fields. Again, this is a pretty weak field event. Ludwig, Pendrith, Cole, Noren, and Keith Mitchell, and then guys that play the best on difficult and very difficult courses. Again, this is an assumption on my end. Could end up playing a lot easier than that, but I do think this course is going to have some teeth. Rory, Ludwig, Connors, Noren, and Lowry kind of round out your best strokes gained difficult courses metrics. So as always, you have the form and field strength. I put the field strength at 10% this week. I might end up bumping down putting and bumping up the field strength index. We will see. But for right now, I have it at 10%. Very top of the model, we have Rory McIlroy. No surprise there. After his win at the Masters, he's kind of been okay, 12th, 7th, 47th. So nothing too special. He's kind of gearing up for next week's major. 11-9. He has won the Canadian Open before. The price point isn't all that bad. We've seen Scheffler much more expensive than that in recent weeks, and he's obviously Rory's obviously the best in the field with a strong rating this week. But I don't mind starting a little bit lower. I do like Corey Connors. He's got the Canadian narrative. He'll have the backing of the home crowd. He's been playing some great golf pretty much over the last 3 or 4 months now. I like Shane Lowry, another guy, very good iron player, very accurate off the tee, pretty good scrambler. All comes down to his putter. Keith Mitchell projects well. I never know what to do with Keith Mitchell. I mean, he was the top 20 machine until he was the chalk at the PGA Championship where he missed the cut. Then he bounced back with the T36. Projects pretty well in the stats. And so, yeah, I don't mind looking to Keith Mitchell. The model certainly likes him. Sungjae's finally flashing a little bit of form. The problem with him is he's not gaining any strokes with his irons. He's kind of doing it all. He's very accurate off the tee, and then he's very good with the short game. So you can play it one of two ways. If he has a bad short game week, he might end up missing the cut. If he has a good iron play week and continues to have those good short game weeks, and I do think he could pop for some upside here. But I don't have a particularly strong take on him. Ludwig, I think he could play great this week, but he just hasn't shown a ton recently, so I'll continue to be underweight, given how expensive he is in this field. Pendrith, playing a little bit better, a couple top 12 finishes in a row. A guy that could certainly benefit if this is a driver-heavy course. Bobby Mack, I think it's a good week to play some Bobby Mack. He's one of those guys, if you look at his stats, pretty solid across the board, above average in pretty much everything. So I do think he makes a lot of sense at 9,800, played pretty well the last couple of weeks. And, yeah, he seems to, he's played well all over the world. So I do think, playing in Canada won't be anything to worry about with him. Luke Clanton, still an amateur. We haven't seen a ton of him recently this year, but he has flashed for some upside. Sam Burns played really well last week. He finally had a pretty good week with the irons, which you like to see. At least he had a couple good rounds with the irons. Then we have this mid-range, which I just don't love. I don't love Noren, Torbjorn Olesen. I know the RG model does like him quite a bit. He's been making a lot of cuts, but I don't know about his upside. Eric Cole is a guy that I like to play on shorter courses and on easy courses, so that worries me a little bit. He does tend to, clean up in these weak field events, but typically the weak field events are the easier ones, so I don't know what to do with him at 8,100. Mackenzie Hughes hasn't been playing his best recently. Kiefer's a guy that has flashed a ton of upside on the Korn Ferry Tour and on, I can't remember the other tour he was on before that, but he's been great, and he's like 65-1 this week. So at low percent ownership, I don't mind looking his way in tournaments. I love Smalley. He let me down 2 weeks ago. He was like -3 through 8 holes or something, and then ended up missing the cut. That was kind of rough. But if you look at his stats, solid across the board. Love that this week because guys that are solid all around can play well on easy courses. They can play well on difficult courses. So I do think he makes a lot of sense. Hisatsune has been very solid recently. He's got top 20s in 4 of his last 7. Kind of playing well, kind of good metrics all over the board. So those two are my favorite, mid-range options if you're going to go that route. Ryan Fox has been playing well. Typically, he's a guy that really wild off the tee, but total driving numbers have been very good, especially over the last 3 months. Good iron player. The short game hasn't been too bad either. So I don't mind looking at Ryan Fox at 7,700. The guys that project well in the value range, I have Ricky Castillo, continues to play well. We still have a very small sample size of stats with him on the PGA Tour, so I would be careful with the fact that he's 14th in the stats and really projects well in like greens and regulation and bogey avoidance. We just haven't seen enough to really know what to expect from him, but I will still play some of him. I like Rico Hoey, one of the better ball strikers in the field. I mean, elite total driver, elite driver of the ball, hits a ton of greens, and he's just a terrible putter, so I'm willing to take my chances there. He hasn't been all that great on difficult courses, but in theory, you would think his ball striking would be better on the difficult courses, but we will see. Kevin Hughes, a bomber, if you want to play the bomber angle. Again, there's a lot of long holes on this course. McCarty projects very well for me at 2% ownership. I'll be overweight there. Victor Perez, I'm okay with. There's some big names like Ben Yon, Gary Woodland that don't project that well, but I'm fine being overweight on them in tournaments. Cam Young starting to make some cuts at least. Probably won't play him, but a guy that has flashed plenty of upside throughout his career. That should just about do it. So I'm going to go check in on my beautiful baby girl. Wish everyone the best of luck, and we'll see you back here next week for the U.S. Open.